at Rutgers. Big Ten basketball, sponsored by Venmo. The 9th-ranked Cornhuskers coming east. So too is Rutgers after a 2-game losing streak out west. Now trying to snap their own 6-game losing skid overall. Hey folks, how are you? Jason Horwitz, former Wisconsin great Brian Butch. Happy to have you with us here to start off your Saturday. And Butchie, historic start, 20-0, but now they've lost back-to-back games. Nebraska got to get back on track.
We got to get back on track. A lot of it is just running habits, making sure they play through physicality. But most importantly, they got to rebound the basketball. They got to out-rebound by 12 against Illinois and Michigan. To clean up the defensive glass is going to be huge.
Starting lineup brought to you by Venmo. Rutgers, Tariq Francis has been so great off the bench, but he's starting for the first time today since mid-December. It's their 8th different starting lineup. Meanwhile, for Nebraska, this is their usual starting 5. And Rink Mast, who did come back against Illinois after missing the Michigan game while being sick, but they think he's actually finally healthy, which he hasn't been for a couple weeks. Underway, and it's the Scarlet Knights basketball. They went out west after taking Michigan State to overtime last time they were in this building, so back-to-back matchups against top 10 teams here at home. Zerno with the ball, also back in the starting lineup after coming off the bench the last 4. Freshman Caden Powers steps back. He had a massive first half at UCLA. And he sticks a triple.
Well, he's coming off a career-high 18 points. And again, a lot of what he's doing is just catch and shoot, but getting involved early in the offense is good.
And Hoiberg, the lane opened wide, and he is hurt. And they're going to stop this. Paul Sells looks at him. He came down awkwardly on his ankle. Sam Hoiberg, coach's son, having such an unbelievable 5th-year senior season.
Well, it's just a simple drive to the basket, wide open lane. He takes advantage of it, and it's a little tight down on the baseline, and you can just see that's where he rolled it a little bit.
Stay in the basketball game. Hoiberg coming off a 13-point, 6-assist outing with 6 rebounds. And the loss to Illinois at home last weekend. Zerno. Utengel is fouled by Dylan Grant.
And if you're Nebraska, you've got to trail Zerno. You know he's going to shoot threes. It's what he does. He only has 10 shots that are not, or 10 makes that are not threes. So you have to trail that, make it a very difficult, and you got to clean up the glass, and that's exactly what Nebraska does there. Like we said, Jason, one of the things in the 2 losses against Michigan and Illinois has been the defensive glass for this Nebraska team, and they've got to clean that area up, especially with the schedule ahead of them.
Grant's got his shoe back on, and it's tied, and he's got a foul. And Rutgers defensively over the time with Steve Peichel. That has been the calling card. That has been a struggle the last couple of seasons. Certainly this year as well. Great Mast with the floater in the lane and an early 4-3 lead.
But all that is a little short roll to the soft area right below the free throw line. So many people, bigs that want to pop, that happens, but you take advantage of that opportunity, and that's exactly what Ring Mast did there by finding the soft spot.
He missed his first 8 shots last weekend. Powers, the aggression early. You mentioned the career-high 18. They were all in the first half.
But he was ultra aggressive in that first half. Then the second half got away from this Rutgers team. That first half, they stuck with UCLA a little bit, but overall, just a big part of them getting off to a good start. And that's a big part for Nebraska to getting off to a good start is Rink Mast banging threes. He needs to do that for a variety of reasons. 1, for his confidence, but 2, for the spacing on the offensive side for Nebraska.
Dylan Grant trying to drive right at him. Loose rebound, and Mast has it. And you talked about that in the pregame with Dave Redson. That Rink Mast the last 6 games, just 18% from 3.
Yeah, and it's really hurt the spacing for Nebraska. There you see Sam Hoiberg drive, but again, when you have so many shooters on the floor, you're going to have driving lanes. That's why this Nebraska team's so hard to guard.
And they have not missed a shot here in the first 2.5 minutes. 4 for 4 to open this ball game. Huskers started the season 20-0. They are top 10 for a program record 5th straight week. And Darren Buchanan with an opportunity for 3.
Oh, and that's with Rutgers offense, you're going to see a lot of isolation. Here you see Buchanan just understanding one-on-one, gets to his spot, 1 dribble. Utengel gets off a little bit. Now all of a sudden, Utengel realizes he's late, closes out, but close it out to the body. You can't. At that point, isolation basketball, your job, keep them in front, force a tough jump shot. You did your job. You don't need a foul. There's no reason to foul.
He missed the free throw. Darren Buchanan Jr. just a 57% free throw shooter on the season. It's on this end of the floor, though. Nebraska so far has been unstoppable. Mass hits off the iron. Francis Skies. Been a good start here, at least for Rutgers, to get someone else scoring, right? Tariq Francis has been so much of the offense off the bench. He hadn't taken a shot yet here in the first 3 minutes of this ballgame. Powers steps back. Sanford has the board for Nebraska. And you talked about that at the outset. They didn't rebound well at Michigan or at home against Illinois on Sunday.
No, they were all rebounded by 12 in those last 2 games, and that's what they've got to do. Great cut there by Lawrence. Just understanding, Rutgers, if you fall asleep, Nebraska's going to have cutters. Jamarcus realizes that his defender falls asleep, and you just cut to the front of the rim. Good things happen when you cut to the rim. You see Powers, young player, falls asleep, loses vision. Lawrence realizes that, cuts right to that front of the rim, and he gets to go to the free throw line.
He drew the second foul on Dylan Grant. So the sophomore is the second leading scorer for Rutgers. Going to go to the bench. Marcus Lawrence for Fred Hoiberg, and we talked to him before the game today. You know, he thought this season when they had some big wins back-to-back-to-back. The Creighton game and then the start of Big Ten schedule in December.
The Illinois win was huge.
Huge. The way they played on the road, plus Wisconsin, he thought, hey, like they can handle winning games back-to-back. He's interested in finding out how they handle losing games back-to-back.
I think the start that they've gotten to here is pretty good. Now, defensively, they need to tighten up a little bit against this Rutgers team. Turn this Rutgers team into an isolation team. That's what their habit has been in the half court. See if you can continue to do that.
Michael Davis on the floor for the first time. Bryce George checked in to Dylan Grant. First shot attempt for Francis, and he drills a 3. The instant bucket hits his first.
Well, and that's the question was going to be, what does Francis do coming, normally off the bench, now starting. When he started, he averages 11.5. Coming off the bench, he averages 20 points.
Back to Hoiberg. Sanford's first attempt, and that rattles through. Huskers 5 for 6 to start, and that is make number 78 on the year, which is the best in the conference.
And just the movement that he has is what makes him so tough to guard.
Pulls down the board as well. You like action, you like pace, you like points. You got the right spot for the first 4.5 minutes.
This action right there, the DHO with Rick Mass coming off the top, they've gotten away from that a little bit the last couple of games. It creates a lot of great opportunities offensively for Nebraska.
So that crowd wanted to travel. Instead, they look at a 3. Davis clears. Stops above the line, rolls out. Steve Pikiell told his team he wants them to be aggressive. I don't know, he wants them to stop 18 feet from the basket, though.
Well, the toughest thing is how early in the offense that comes. Yes, play fast, get some fast break points, but understand when.
Mass draws the foul. They wave off the basket. It is a foul coming back on JaMychal Davis. Nebraska hot shooting, trying to get back on track. The number 9 team in the country at 4.
Been the last 2 games, misses the Michigan game, plays through the illness against Illinois. He didn't look himself. And I thought at times Nebraska's offense didn't look like themselves. And again, it's little things. Nebraska's played 2 really good teams. They lost, both were very close games. There I would love to see Rick Mass not, absorb that contact and don't fade away there. That's why that shot right there is short.
Trip to the ER when you're that sick was certainly, he thought he had appendicitis because he was having all the pain in his stomach from consistent vomiting. He's had some time to get some weight back, get his health back. And Tariq Francis with his second bucket. And starting this ball game today for the first time in 6 weeks, it is a different feel.
It is a different feel, but the game is still the same. A simple shot fake creates space, and with the space, he's able to get Frager off his feet and then go and score the basketball.
Bryce George commits the foul underneath the basket.
But the simplicity of the game. You work, you get to your spot, shot fake, you get Sprague up, now all of a sudden you've got space. That way of scoring the basketball for Friends, he's so good. He's got the herky-jerk in him. He's able to get defenders up off the ground.
Worked with the block. Rutgers trying to push Buchanan into the front court. High off the glass to tie the game at 14. And an offensive foul. DeMarcus Lawrence moving, trying to set the screen.
And you have to be set. When great screening teams understand you have to be set. You just look at the screen there. Lawrence is the first screener in what's a double screen. He's trying to get the body, but he's moving, and that's why the foul's called on. You have the second screener. You're trying to get a piece, but you can't get a foul.
Bryce Sanford against Illinois on Sunday got off to such a great start. Really couldn't get looks in the second half. And topic of conversation this week, Buchanan stepped in way long. Dale Jacobson on the floor along with Frager. They've gone to the bench here early in this ballgame. Mass thought there was help. He waited a sec. He bought some time and he put it in.
Hey, and I love a good shot fake. Like, I'm probably the guy that made me the happiest of shot fake. He didn't need the shot fake though. That made me happy.
Buchanan didn't take one. He finished, and they'll go back to the line.
But weak side for Nebraska needs to be pulled over. You look at there's none there. There's a lack of communication. Buchanan is able to go finish through the contact. And then you look at Rick Mass, getting him involved early. Now, the shot fake, I love it. He definitely didn't need it, though. He could have definitely gone up and scored the layup. But that being said, you can see there's an emphasis early on in Nebraska touching and playing through the post a little bit more than they have, especially with, get Rick Mass involved.
Well, it's muscle memory, right?
Absolutely, yeah,
whether you
correct.
need it or
Yeah,
not, you
for
practice
sure.
10,000
For sure,
times.
absolutely. Well, it's not like Rick Mass is a great athlete. Now, he's a very good athlete, but there's a difference.
Steve Peichel, he really has thought that there's been some growth on this team. He lost to UCLA as one-sided as it was, but they were right there. Maybe should have won the Michigan State game, at a second-half lead. They let slip away. 3-point loss at USC. They're close at Iowa, so he feels, yes, it's a 6-game losing streak. They're at the bottom of the conference, but there has been strides for this young team.
Well, they get 24.5 points from their freshmen. So you're relying a lot on young players to learn quick. The Big Ten's a really hard league to learn in, and you're going to have some ups and downs. But they're playing, like you said, bad second half against UCLA, but they're playing really good. There's an offensive foul as well, screening. But in general, what Rutgers has done, I think they're doing a better job. You can see their freshmen, they're understanding how their scoring opportunities are going to come within the flow of their offense. Defensively, they're getting better. They need to be better. They're getting better. And it's knowing how you're going to play for 40 minutes with the consistency that's expected.
Well, not turning the ball over. That offensive foul is their first turnover. And Hoiberg had to take it away. The freshman, Chris Woolley. They wanted a foul. Instead, it's a 3-on-2 Nebraska break. Hoiberg pulled up for 3. And Tariq Francis pushed from behind. He pushed Braden Frager. And Brian, that is the 6th foul already on Rutgers here in the first half.
And it's one of those things, when you look at just the physicality, I think Nebraska's doing a good job of fighting through the physicality. When you fight through the physicality, you're going to get a call. When you absorb that physicality, you don't get the call.
And a whistle. Ryan Dorsey's out at the scorer's table having a conversation. He just moved Fred Hoiberg. A very experienced crew today. Final 4 group here this afternoon with Paul Sells, Brian Dorsey, and Earl Walton. Newton Gel caught it in the lane and finished to Nebraska up 2.
And really, those short rolls have been there early on in this game for Nebraska's bigs.
It feels like a moment here of adversity, right? Rutgers have gotten a lead.
And they need to take care of the basketball.
Ole came off the bench. Those long arms pulled down the rebound. 2-point Huskers lead. They started this ball game 4 for 4. Been struggling from the floor since. Cerno throwing it away again. 3 straight possessions. Sanford on the other end, and he finishes. And to your point, that is 3 consecutive giveaways.
And you need to. We've just talked about Nebraska last 2 games. They've struggled on the defensive glass. You got to get a shot, so at least you give yourself a chance to get set on the offensive side, and then defensively gives you a chance to get set.
Dinjo ripped it away. That was a great box out.
And now you look at defensively, at least Rutgers is set there versus the turnover. Now Nebraska's running. That's tough to guard against, especially against this Nebraska team.
Frager on the drive. Great footwork. Just couldn't finish.
Well, he wanted to get back to that left hand, and he did. He got in there. You just talked about the footwork, but it's the ball fake to come back to the footwork. Just misses it.
Francis got it back. Thought about the 3. Took the 3. Bad decision. Ball still loose, and a foul. Pinballs around players and ball, and it's going to be a foul here on Nebraska. Big game on the road. Rutgers trying to pull an upset, 4-point game. Trying to snap a 6-game skid. They have pulled some upsets in this building under Steve Peichel over top 10 teams. They have lost 8 in a row, though. The last was when Purdue was here 3 years ago. They were certainly very close. I feel like they should have beaten Michigan State a couple of weeks ago before they left for their West Coast win.
Absolutely, and I think if they're going to beat this Nebraska team, it's got to get some easy baskets. They've got to get some bench points, because you look at what Francis now in the starting lineup, who's going to come off that bench and give them a jolt when they need that. I think that's something to monitor as well.
At this point, they have not had a bench point. Francis, Powers, and Buchanan have scored all 16 here for the Scarlet Knights. 4 to shoot. Francis stepped inside the arc. It hit every part of the rim and fell down.
And good patience there by Rutgers, getting multiple sides of the floor. The skip pass to Francis.
Buchanan reached in. Walton called for the foul.
And Buchanan didn't need to do that. When you look at it, Frager's going away from the basket. You have your body and your chest directing him towards the R, which is the far baseline. There hasn't created the advantage. Just stay straight up. Just play through the chest. You do that, you're not going to get a foul. Now, all of a sudden, it sends Frager to the free throw line. And it's interesting, you look at this Nebraska team, we know how good they are from 3, but 12 points early in the paint in this game, and I think that's been a focal point for this Nebraska team. We're great from 3, but if they're going to run us off, let's take advantage of what they're giving us, too.
Well, the other part, too, Nebraska does not shoot a ton of free throws. They only had 5 free throw attempts last weekend. In the game at home against Illinois, didn't shoot a lot at Michigan either, because they are so reliant on the 3-point shot. But when they get to the line, they're a 76% free throw shooting team.
Absolutely, and I think that's the biggest thing now. Rutgers, you were at practice. We talked with Coach Pike. That's all they talked about. Get them off the line. Get them off the line. Double dribble there by Rutgers. But defensively, you can see Rutgers against this Nebraska team saying, we got to get them off the line. Now, that secondary defender for Rutgers needs to be there, because Nebraska's eating in the paint.
Zerno back in. The offense has hit a major roadblock here.
Well,
5 turnovers.
I was just going to say, it's
all
the
the last 3.5 minutes.
Rutgers. And you have to take care of the basketball. If you're going to beat this Nebraska team who's really good, you have to make sure you take care of the ball.
Last on the bench for the Cornhuskers.
It's
another offensive foul.
It is, yeah. And it's the catch, it's the handoff. Ukugel doesn't necessarily stay set. The DHO, the handoffs are there, but you can just see the slide in the feet. When you're in that situation as a big and you've got the handoff, you've got to think to yourself, I've got nails in my feet, I cannot move. If you move, these guards are way too good at fighting over the top, getting the shoulder, and then if they feel contact, they're going to fall down.
So Ukugel to the bench with 2 fouls. Dylan Grant has been on the bench for Rutgers after 3 minutes into this game with 2 fouls. Buchanan just kind of threw it at the rim and it went down. He's got 8 early points. Well, Bole got his hand on it and they will count it. Well, the exasperated look on Steve Peichel's face when he saw that called goaltending. What do you think?
Well, live, it looked pretty. I think that's a block. I don't think that's going down. Live, it looked like a block, and just replay-wise there initially, it looks like that's still on the way up.
Steve Peichel had the chance to challenge. He did not. So count the bucket. Neither team so far here in this ballgame has had a run of more than 4. So back and forth the whole way. Powers for 3. You think of the way Nebraska is, Buchanan is down back behind the play. Rutgers is playing with 4, and the officials haven't seen it. They have an offensive player down, and now they finally blow the whistle. Darren Buchanan is back on the defensive end for Rutgers, and he has been holding his lower part of his body here for the better part of 40 or 50 seconds.
And I didn't, it didn't look like there was a screening action or anything that came up there.
Well, as Rutgers was going back up the floor, he never joined them in the offensive end. He's at the top of your screen. It really looked like
it didn't look. Yeah, it didn't. And he's back up, and he did jog back to the locker room right now. So at least there's some movement, and he's able to kind of jog back to what that might be.
He goes to the bench. Dylan Grant is back on the floor with his 2 fouls. And looking to get a little bit more. He had a double-double at USC. But Grant followed that up with a 1.1 rebound performance. Powers with 2 on the shot clock at the side of the backboard. So all that great offense that happened the first 3-4 minutes has really come to a halt.
No, there's no question about it. I think Nebraska, if you're Nebraska offensively here, work through this dribble handoff action with Rick Mass. See if you can get him involved. Create the roll there, which creates a wide open look. That is a great, simple. We talked about the DHO. All that is Frager comes off of that. Rink rolls hard. Because Rink rolls hard, Lawrence is wide open in the corner. Like, that's why that action is so good for this Nebraska team.
Huskers' largest lead in this first half. Zerno battling among 3 Huskers, and Hoiberg pulls it down. Now, Sam Hoiberg, 6 feet, 180 pounds. When he leads them in rebounding in a game, it really is impressive. But on the year, he's been doing that.
He's second on the team in rebounding with 5.2.
It has been impressive all year long. His career has been a trajectory up.
And it's a simple screen and roll. Nebraska's been getting back to it, but it's kicked for corner 3 for Lawrence.
Back in 1991, losing to Xavier, they have never won a tournament game. And will that guy and that shirt follow this coach to wherever they play in the NCAA tournament? And the question is, will the storybook season end not just with their first ever NCAA tournament win, but how far into the tournament really is the question.
Well, yeah, but that's the question. The question is, where can I get that shirt? That's the first question. Second question, yes, how far can they go in the NCAA? This team is really good, and you look at the 2 losses, Michigan, Illinois, it's all little things, and I think that's the biggest thing. That's too easy defensively, though. You have to make sure that you have help side. You can't just give Obole a wide open dunk either.
I mean, that would be so helpful for the Scarlet Knights. He has just 5 total points the last 4 games. If they can get any type of production in the paint from Emmanuel Obola, that would be a massive boost the rest of this afternoon.
And most of his offense comes off of offensive rebounds. There was a dunking, so that's bonus.
Down to 4 to shoot. Mass steps back. Launch, no. Huskers so far in the game, just 3 of 11 from beyond the arc. Remember, they lead the Big Ten, hitting more than 11 threes a game.
It's the same play. It's going to be a dunk, and Rick Mass has to take care of it. He finally does, which forces the skip.
Sam Hoiberg just cleared his 3rd rebound of the half.
just plays the game the right way. He's in the right position because of his basketball IQ. He knows how and where to be.
His basketball court awareness, I mean, that is top-notch.
There's no question about it. I mean, he's so fun to watch because it's simple, but he has the results.
Takes the three, and he hits.
Again, just understanding spacing. There's no reason for him to move, space out, let the ball screen happen. Your man has to help. If you stay spaced, which you should, you're going to get the pass and be shot ready.
Well, and his final season here in Lincoln, he's now a contributing member to the offense, right? 9 points a game. He's got 7 this afternoon. And he's on a 6-game run of scoring double figures, best of his career by far.
Well, over his last 6 games, he's averaged 12.5, shooting 61%, getting 5.5 rebounds. Like, he's such a big part of what they're doing.
Ass took the open three. And that long rebound, a second opportunity for the Huskers. Frager wide open, left alone. Well, those are the threes they normally hit.
They're the threes they normally hit, but we talked with Coach Peichel as well. Defensively for Rutgers, just clean up the glass. There's 2 offensive rebounds. Almost a third, but those are the things that is extra possessions. Normally a team scores on that. You know, Rutgers gets a little bit of a break there by Nebraska not scoring.
The Scarlet Knights team that is just 9-14 on the year, but this crowd is sold out. They are waiting to explode, but they need Rutgers to get back into this ball game.
And they've got it for Rutgers. They got to find ways to score easy points. They're defensively. Zerno does a good job of showing that hand, but the biggest thing for this Rutgers team is find easy ways to score the basketball, whether it's offensive rebounds, transition opportunities.
Bryce Sanford back into the ball game. Darren Buchanan, who went to the locker room before the last TV timeout, is back on the bench.
Well, and he's had a really good first half for this team. I mean, you just look at what he's done. 8 points. He's been the offense for him.
Rink Mast inside off the inbounds. 9 for Mast.
There's an end line out of bounds where Rutgers just loses Mast. And that's been this thing with this Rutgers team defensively. They've been good for time, but they haven't been good for long durations. There's been those mental errors that happen. And that's what happens with young teams.
Grant trying to drive. Sam Hoiberg is right there in the right spot again. And then Powers knocked it off Jacobson's knee. So it will be Rutgers basketball coming back from the timeout. Scarlet Knights at home trying to get back into it before halftime. From Big Ten Tournament as well as Selection Sunday. And remember, unlike last year where the last 3 teams in the conference did not make the Big Ten Tournament, this year all 18 do. Top 4 teams, they get, as usual, the bye all the way to the quarterfinals. The bottom 4 will play on Tuesday in those first 2 games.
Well, and I think you look at that in general, where everyone's at, and just having everyone there in Chicago this year is going to be awesome. I think it's the right decision as well when you just look at how this is. Every season, you want to end it with a chance. I don't think the bottom couple teams are going to win their way to a Big Ten championship, but you're giving hope. I think that's what's great about college basketball.
And nobody thought NC State would go from what they did in the ACC tournament all the way to the Final Four.
So you're giving everybody a chance.
Yep.
Exactly.
Part of the beauty of March Madness. And Nebraska this year set to be such a massive part of it. And what a storyline they will be wherever they go in the NCAA tournament. Rink Mast bullies his way. He's got double figures in the first half.
Well, Jacobson just sets a cross screen. A great ATO there by Nebraska coming out of it. A cross screen to bring Rink right to the front of the rim. There's not enough ball pressure by Rutgers, so the interior passing is there, and then Rink is able to finish. And as you said, 10 points early on in this, Rink Mast, or 11, excuse me, to get him so involved after kind of a slow last 5 games for him. Really important for this Nebraska team.
Drake Francis hit his first 3 shots. He has now missed his last 5.
And for Francis, where do you find the rhythm? How do you get that? To me, I've said it a lot, but it's about getting easy baskets for this Rutgers team to kind of get them going.
Lawrence, the New Jersey native, sticks a second three.
And I just said this at the break today. So these last 3 minutes feel very important for Rutgers to stay into this game.
Paul Sells stops the action here, a wet spot on the floor. Be sure to stick around for the halftime show presented by State Farm. Dave Rebson, Rafael Davis back in our studios. I'll get you caught up on this, what's going on between Wisconsin and Indiana, and a massive day all across the conference.
If you're Rutgers, you can't fall asleep at any point against this Nebraska team. This Nebraska team, there's a foul on Lawrence because he's trailing too much. But in general, you can't fall asleep because they have so many great shooters. If you're not there on the closeout, you're going to bang that three, and that's what Lawrence did. Now you're looking at a 13-point game, Jason, versus, they've had this at, 8, 6, very, very doable, but these last two now, if you're Rutgers, you've got to find some offensive flow so that you can get your defense set. Rutgers hasn't scored in the last 3-some minutes.
It was a 4-point game for the better part of the half. Is now that 13-point deficit making 10. Tariq Francis has 10 in the half as well. Jacobson driving on Powers, blocked by George, and he saved it. Into the front court, a little spurt, and Powers lost it on the way up. You felt that energy, but they haven't really able to put back-to-back possessions.
That's what it is. I thought that Powers drive might be there, but loses it on the way up. Now Nebraska has it. So can Rutgers guard for the next 15 seconds here and get us another stop?
The other part for Nebraska here is Sanford goes to work down low. You look at he and Frager in this ballgame. They only have 9 combined here in the first half. And yet they have been able to play in front the whole half.
Well, yeah, and you look at 19 from Mast and Lawrence. So that's why this depth of this Nebraska team as well is so tough.
And the balance they have. Buchanan is back in the game after leaving early. Left that short. As we're in the final minute here of this first half. 9th-ranked Huskers. Sanford pulls up.
It's a little 2-for-1 opportunity, get a quick one-up type there. The kind of thought process, now all of a sudden you're going to get the ball back as well. So I don't mind that quick trigger. And I know that's the way Nebraska plays in general, but get that one up, now all of a sudden get a stop. You're going to get the ball back as well.
Huskers average 80 points a game this year. It's their highest scoring team in about 30 years. And you think about how much of that comes from the three. They are very reliant on the three-point shot for their point total. But today it's been a different story. You made that out. They've had so much inside.
Well, and you can tell it's been a focus. There's been interior screening to get Rick Mass open, and the driving ability of the guards. You saw Sanford get to the paint on that last drive as well.
Plenty of time on the shot clock. Buchanan's doubled. And Hoiberg with another steal. That is 8 Rutgers turnovers, all in the final 12 minutes of this first half. They didn't have one the first 8 minutes.
Yeah, a team that only averages 10.
Huskers gonna hold for the final shot. It's massed along the baseline, floats it in. A solid first half, and Steve Peichel was able to get his timeout in there before the clock hit 0, so Rutgers will get a little bit of time to maybe have a hoist before the end of the half.
But Ring is doing a good job of just spacing. There's the screen, understanding that he's there. The help has to come. You look at the ability of Sam Hoiberg to get downhill. When you get downhill, what does it do? It forces a defense to collapse, especially when you have Sanford, the shooter, coming off. Now all of a sudden you've got that guard that's guarding Sanford, trailing that screen. The big's got to help. Little pocket pass to a short corner, shot there by Rick Mass. And I think that's the biggest thing. We talked about this before we went on air. This felt like a get-right game for Rick Mass as far as he's finally feeling better. Hasn't played great over the last 5. You just felt like this was going to be a game of his to kind of get going a little bit. He's too good of a player to have had the numbers over the last 5 that he had, as far as only averaging 7.8 and 3.8 rebounds. Like, he's too good of a player.
Yeah, he's got 13 points, 5 rebounds here for a Nebraska team that already this year has won 5 conference road games. It is February 7th, and they already, if a win today, will break the school record for most conference road wins in a season. And you know, we're going to get to, by the end of this season, we're going to have so many. This is the first time they've done this.
I was just going to say, how many times are we going to mention that?
We talk about this all the time in this conference. Every building on the conference, some more difficult than others, but every building. They've won in Illinois. They've gone even without Maston Frager, they almost won in Ann Arbor.
Absolutely. I mean, this team is really good, and I think we've talked about what makes them good. They're a great three-point shooting team. They're defensively, they help on everything. They don't allow middle. They double the post. It's a little bit different where they come from. They play that DHO handoff offensively to create great space. They have experience. You know, you look at Frager, who redshirted. Like, we don't talk about that. The old school approach of we're going to redshirt a guy. I don't know how much of that we'll see in the NIL world anymore, but the ability to get Frager to believe it and then do it and then perform at the level that he's performing at, it's all of that with this team.
They did reset the game clock to 1.9, so they added a half second with the timeout. The inbounds to Davis. He's got the heave. It's good if it goes. But instead, it's a 14-5 run for Nebraska to end the half. And Fred Hoiberg and company will go in with a 2-touchdown lead here at Rutgers.
And they've responded. It was that last 3 minutes that really, like you said, the 14-5 run that got them the separation. Now, how do you come out in the second half?
Halftime show presented by State Farm. Coming up on the other side, Dave Ripson, Rayfeld Davis in our studio. First half, stats, analysis, all of it coming up on the other side. Afternoon, and the 9th-ranked team in the country up 14 as we start the second half. Jason Horwitz, Brian Butch, happy to have you back with us here as we get set for the start of the second half. And you know, Fred Hoiberg wanted to see how did his older team respond with 2 losses. Solid first half.
I think they did exactly what they needed to. They came out, they shared the ball. Rick Mass got involved early on. Defensively, they tightened up in that second part of the first half, and now they just got to continue.
Yeah, let's take a look at our game leaders, brought to you by Auto Owners Insurance. Rick Mass had the 13 points. Tariq Francis, he did start for the first time since early December, had 10, but it wasn't anything consistent or consecutive. And as a team, Rutgers only scored 3 points the final 5 minutes of the first half.
Well, and we've said it, but I think a lot of that has to become finding easy baskets. Offensive rebounds, that was an area that Nebraska struggled against Illinois and Michigan. Now, I also understand why they struggled against Illinois and you know, Michigan. Those are 2 really good teams at crashing the glass, but that's the way that, you know, this Rutgers team really does need to try to, you know, find ways to score the basketball.
Ebole starts the second half. He came off the bench in the game, and right away, 7 seconds in, Aaron Buchanan Jr. picks up his second foul. Good to see him back on the floor. Buchanan went to the locker room with about 8 minutes to go in the half. Awkwardly, just kind of holding what looked like his groin area. Nothing happened in terms of collision or anything like that. He went back to the locker room, did come back late in the first half. Sanford right away hits a 3.
Well, it was just an in screen to be able to bring Price back out for 3. And if you're Rutgers, you can't lose him. You know what he does. He leads the league as far as 3-pointers made. Like, you can't lose him.
He is now up to 79 threes on the year. 6th most Nebraska history in a single season. Powers with an answer. He had 5 early points first 2 minutes, but then he didn't score the rest of the half.
Well, again, that goes back just to being young and trying to know what the role is and follow your role and expand upon it.
Good help there from Ebole. He left Hoiberg alone at the top of the arc. He buries a 3. Double figures for a 7th straight game.
And that's the tough thing. We've talked about what Rutgers does as far as, you know, how the 3rd worst as far as the Big Ten goes is, you know, 3-point percentage, and there's 2 wide open looks for Nebraska.
Zerno off the quick pass. Those are his first points. So here's the thing. Rutgers offensively is having a solid start to the second half, but you're down 14 to start the half. You can't trade buckets.
Well, you can't trade buckets, and just defensively you need to be locked in.
Slip from Mask, rolled off, so they do get a stop. First back to Zerno. Can he make it back to back?
That would have been good for this Rutgers offense, just to kind of get that stop offensively, what they've been doing. You know what he wants to do. He wants to. There he goes underneath the screen. And lucky, and it stays here with the foul by Francis on Jamarcus Lawrence. But it's just being disciplined. Zerno doesn't trail Price Sanford. When you don't trail one of the best shooters in the conference, normally bad things happen. Now, Price missed that shot, but it's that discipline of playing for a full 40 minutes and not taking shortcuts.
Now, their ability to get him some shots here early in the second half, that was a struggle last week, right off the inbound. That is the third time.
I was just going to say, and it's been the same action. It's been the screen, and then it's been the big dive to the block. And Rick Mast has been able to get that 3 different times, Jace.
Well, and you know, as a big, I mean, he doesn't pull the ball down. He catches it, he keeps it high, and puts it right up.
Exactly. When you're not a super great athlete, now Rick Mast is an athlete. I'm not saying he's not, but when you're not a super great athlete, you find ways to create different opportunities. There's another steal by Sam Hoiberg.
That is his 4th swipe of the game. He has had one heck of a well-rounded afternoon. Sam Hoiberg, 10 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals. And what he loves the most is a 16-point lead. Powers got Buchengel on his heels, and he is starting to really come into his own.
Yes, absolutely. And you look at it, just the growth. And I think that's the one thing that Coach Peichel does. And you hope some of these freshmen stick around long enough within the program, because the development that Coach Peichel and his staff do for these players is huge. And you look at a guy like Caleb McConnell, who wasn't great as a freshman, but look at what Caleb McConnell did, throughout his career. And I think, Powers is the same situation. Just drive, understand that you get the big to slide his feet a little bit. Now all of a sudden you've got the pull up. And that's the development. And I can't emphasize it enough. Sometimes going other places isn't always great. You got to know and be at a spot where you feel like you can be developed and grow and be a part of it. And I think, Coach Peichel's had enough players that he's developed through the time that have turned into really, really good Big Ten basketball players. And I think we're just in that state. And I hope these freshmen, stick around here.
6 freshmen in this Rutgers class. Zerno, Caden Powers certainly have been the 2 that have highlighted the class maybe more than others so far here in their first seasons. Lino Mark was playing well in Los Angeles the last 2 games, but he is out today with a back injury. Buchanan. Huskers led by 14 at the break. They're up by 16, and Hoiberg makes it 19. His 3rd triple of the game. Timeout. Sam Hoiberg is on the afternoon.
He's so fun to watch. 13 points on the afternoon, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and a big-time 3 right there.
Teams, but Fred Hoiberg's squad is in control, up by 19, and he has watched his son Sam really blossom from where he came on a few years ago, where he had to play because of injuries, and now he is a main part. Today he is kind of guy with 3 triples.
Well, and you talk about the shooting, but he's first in the nation as far as assist to turnover ratio with a 5.9 to 1. The way that he rebounds the ball at the guard spot, he does everything for this team without ever needing the ball.
Yep. Great ball movement. Arun Zerno knocks in a 3, and then a big fist pump, right? I mean, they haven't had enough consistency all year. They're looking for anything to get them going out of a timeout.
Now can they get enough stops? I mean, that's been the question on the defensive end. Offensively, you see what they've done, but defensively, can they?
Yep, they knocked it out of bounds, which will send us back to a TV timeout. 15:36 to go. Sam Hoiberg, our impact player, fueled by Gatorade, and he has fueled a little bit of everything this afternoon.
Well, and the first play of the game, he drives the paint and turns his ankle a little bit, and look at what he's done with 13 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists on a little ankle turn that he had early on. But it's just the way that he lets the game come to him. There's nothing forced with Sam Hoiberg, and I think that's the thing that I watch as a player. Like, you want to play with a Sam Hoiberg because you know everything that he does, he's going to make the right play. He's going to make the right play for the team. And there you saw Rutgers go into the zone and Price Sanford drill the three. That's why it's tough to guard this Nebraska team with the way that they shoot it from three. You go zone, now all of a sudden, you know, the liability you have is from the three-point line, and Nebraska makes you pay again.
You would have thought first half, hey, Rutgers felt like they did a good job. He was 1 of 4 from beyond the arc. Sanford has now hit 2 threes here in the second half. And now up to 80 on the season, which is tied for 5th most in a single year in Huskers history. And he is approaching that record. He's going to break it. He's only 9 away from tying the all-time mark, Kerry Cochran back in 2002. And the pace that he's been going, I mean, he may break that in the next week.
I mean, literally over the last 6 games, he's averaging 21.5, shoot 46% from 3. I mean, just 5 straight 20-point, like, again, the growth, the development of all these guys and how he's continued to do it, it's fun. I mean, he's taken that leap like his brother took at the same time as what he's done.
Yeah, his junior season.
Yes, absolutely.
Tried the extra pass there for Buchton Joe. Turnaround jumper. It's a 19-point game here with 14 minutes to go. Buchanan, Lawrence got his hand in there. A lot of contact, no whistle. Extra move, that went off of Lawrence's shoulder all the way across. Zerno threw it to no one.
But it's the scramble defense of Nebraska that forces this. Now, there was a lot of long skip passes, which forced long closeouts, but Nebraska was there on every closeout. Most teams, at some point, there's a breakdown. This Nebraska team, there isn't. They're helping for each other, and that's why they are as good as they are.
And you pointed this out earlier, you know, this new era of college basketball, the changing landscape. They have a lot of players, not everyone, but a lot of players who have worn that uniform for 2, 3, 4 seasons. And now, again, not that anyone expected them to go on a 20-0 start, have a 24-game winning streak back to last year, and maybe not reach the heights that they reached so far this season. But they thought this could be a tournament team, and it certainly looks to be that plus.
Well, and I asked Coach Hoiberg this about a month ago. I said, when did your guys finally believe? Because when you're in a great season, there's always a moment, and he, you know, went back to that at Illinois with the game winner. But there has to be a moment where the group believes they're as good as what the record says. And this group finally had that moment at Illinois, and then you saw him continue to do it. I would have really loved to see a healthy squad against Michigan and against Illinois, because I think the results are a little bit different in what they're able to do, and the conversation's a little bit different. But there's a great 3 by Zerno. But in general, now this team has a great opportunity in front of them to continue to win games there. There's a big game against Purdue coming up, and then you've got a stretch that you try to stack wins and get to that 2 seed in the NCAA tournament and see what happens.
George was standing on the end line when he caught the rebound, so it'll go back to Nebraska.
And I think the last piece, Jason, is this team hasn't won an NCAA tournament. Like this program. That, to me, is what, obviously what they're doing in Big Ten play. Finish this off, see if you can get some help from some teams and, get a share of the Big Ten title, win it outright. Like, you're going to have some help. But in general, play extremely well and see how deep of a run. But this team can make an extremely deep run in the NCAA tournament.
Sanford turned the corner and a beautiful find, and Buchton at the finish.
It's just the way they share the ball. Like, it's just fun basketball to watch.
Turner with the ball in his hands, did not score in the first half, and he's fouled. So he will go to the free throw line. We go back to the other end. I mean, you think so much about Sanford and how he shoots the basketball, and he's got other aspects too.
Well, and it's just understanding the no-look scoop pass there, but attacking the paint. When you attack the paint, now all of a sudden, it gives you the ability to drop the ball off, and that's exactly what Price did. And this team, initially in this game, it was not all from three. They have 22 points in the paint, and you could tell there was a concerted effort to get the ball in the paint early, and they did that. And then when you do that, now all of a sudden you can build on it. I think, what did you learn from the last two games? We need to get to the paint a little bit more, because that gives us more space to be able to run what we need to do, and that's what they've executed. And that's, I think, the other thing with this team is that you can tell they're extremely coachable. And I think that's a big part right now in college basketball, is having teams that are so coachable.
Well, it's also on the defensive end, right? That when they made the tournament a couple years ago, they are not quite as good defensively. That's been a different story. They have been a much better defensive team this season. Now, for the first time today, they lead by 20. Well, Huskers up 61-41 as we approach 12 to go.
And it's only Frager's fourth point, and they still have 61. So that's when you look at where you're getting and who's contributing to this team. It's very tough. They're very tough to prepare for, because you can't just pick out a guy and say, we need to stop this guy.
High floater, Dylan Grant's bucket. That is his first points of the afternoon, and a timeout taken by Rutgers, which will trigger a TV timeout. Nebraska on the road in full control, on its way to what looks like a 6th road conference win this year, which will break the school record because of a lot of these type of plays. Our good hand plays brought to you by Allstate. 19 assists in the ballgame.
On 23 makes, and I think that's the biggest thing, is what they're able to do. Average 18, but the ability to share the basketball, cut, and now all of a sudden hit right on target where you're able to finish and catch right away. And this team, again, like I said, averaging 18 assists, 15th in the nation, and what they're able to do. And again, you're seeing it here this afternoon.
Jacobson in the ball game, 4 different scores in double figures this afternoon for Nebraska. Stanford, one of them. The 5 to shoot. Frager. A rebound for Rutgers to finally get a couple of defensive stops. They need to get something going. Their offense has been better here in the second half, but the lead has grown from 14 to 18.
I think that's been the toughest thing with Rutgers, is defensively, can you get enough stops? There's great drive there by Powers, and again, you can see his growth throughout the year. Now, can they stack defensive stops and try to get this thing to where you can make a run? They did it against USC, so they've just recently have gone through this thing. Now, can they continue to get enough stops on this end, make it difficult? Straight line drives are tough, but good contest there by Powers.
And Hoiberg is back behind the play, so Rutgers has some numbers. Powers the extra pass. Now Hoiberg gets back onto the defensive set. Grant, and he's fouled. So they get a couple of stops, and now Dylan Grant will be at the free throw line to try and get points on back-to-back possessions.
That's called momentum, and that's what they need, a little bit of that, and find ways to stack stops, offensively attack, and get to the free throw line. And I think that's the biggest thing that you look at in general, is how do you do it? How do comebacks happen? Well, you score on the free throw line. Well, the clock is stopped.
Grant, a 75% free throw shooter, hits the first. And this is what you were talking about, Brian. 19 assists on 23 makes. That is about 83%. Now, they are normally assists on 64%, which is top 15 in the country. 83% is record setting.
Yeah, I was going to say it's ridiculous. But it's the way that they share the basketball. And we've talked about Rutgers needing to stack stops. Well, it's really tough to do that when you have an unselfish team that's making the right play. And when you talk about 19 on 23, they're making the right play. And on top of that, only 5 turnovers.
They only average 9 on the season. Also towards the top. Again, how do you get to 20-0? How do you get top 10 in the country? All these numbers. Sanford for 3. So they got the stops. 10-minute mark, halfway through the second half. Can they make it dent? Powers, and Dortch wasn't ready for it.
And Powers had a great little head fake to be able to create the driving lane. And even though he's looking for Dortch on that pass, you're in the paint, play off 2 feet, go up and score the basketball.
Instead, it's the 13th turnover for Rutgers. Bass had 13 points in the first half. He has only scored 2 here in the second half. Oh, he floated that in.
But that's why it's so important for this Nebraska team. We've talked a lot, but Illinois, Michigan, much taller bodies down there. I get that. But the ability to, when things aren't necessarily going, or you've got, you've hit a little bit of a stretch where you haven't been able to score, throw that ball in the post. Get a nice post move by Ringmaster. Score the 2 points. Stop the run.
And stopped at the free throw line, hit it, and he was fouled.
Now, we've seen that a couple of times this afternoon. Nebraska fouling the jump shooters. Grant gets to that paint. Prager's slow to the closeout. You're already beat if you're Nebraska. You don't need to foul. Like the closeout there, you're already late. You got to go straight up, straight down. There's not a bunch of contact, but there's enough on the forearm to be able to get that call. Those are such easy foul calls that you've already, there was an error on the defensive ball screen coverage. Okay, you got to live with it. Adjust to it. Get there, show a body, turn around, rebound, hopefully he misses. But now you've just added on to the bat.
All 7 points for Dylan Grant have come here in the second half. All of Harun Zerno's points have come here in the second half, and it's a 13-point game. And for the first time in the second half, the crowd's showing some life. Double on Sanford. They were ready for him to shoot. This time they got the bigger body of Obole, and it didn't matter.
But that's the patience, and that's when things aren't going what you want. Having the escape of going to the block, and a player like Rick Mast who can slow down the game and still score is huge.
Buchanan on the answer on the drive. Darren Buchanan into double figures with 10. Prager takes it right at him off the break. Mast, and his positioning was perfect. Looking on Obole over the right shoulder. And that rolled in.
And Rutgers is doing what they need to do. They're taking away the three. It's just Rick Mast is taking over right now.
He has 21 points. His 5th 20-point game of the season. Jacobson commits the foul underneath. That is just the 4th foul by Nebraska here in the half. And things were slowly starting to slip away. Rutgers was chipping away.
The building was getting louder, all of that. You could feel that it wanted to turn. It wanted to turn, but Rick Mast said, give me the jump hook. We're not turning anything.
And 3 straight possessions they've gone down there.
But I think, you look, again, the last 2 games they've lost, that was missing.
Did not play at Michigan. Played against Illinois. 26 minutes, but he didn't score until the final couple of minutes of that ball game. He was 2 of 10 from the floor. A very different Dutchman here today. Extra pass. Davis, open look in rhythm. Bullet kicked it out. And Nebraska's got numbers. Jacobson. Sanford trailing the play. Well, that felt like that would have been a big 3 if it went down. Instead, it's Davis stepping through. Coast to coast for Jermichael Davis.
And those were the easy baskets we talked about. Rutgers needing to get. Now, can they get a stop? This still is very reachable.
And that has been the stop plug. It's been Rick Mast. Instead, it's Obole, who can't stay with the freshman Fragrant. Inside of 7 minutes to play here this afternoon. And it will stay Rutgers basketball after the break. But Rick Mast has taken over the second half, and a little bit of Brian Butch here.
I don't know about that, but over his last 5, it's been 7.
Swing at Ohio State and Michigan on the women's side, looking to bounce back in a building where it was electric when Nebraska was home this past weekend for Illinois and had that first half lead. They could not hold it in the second half. Rick Mast struggled coming back from the illness, but he hasn't struggled at all today.
No, he hasn't, and he's been ultra aggressive. And you look at taking over here when Rutgers has tried to make that push, but he's got himself to the block. He's got the jump hook going.
8 in the shot clock. Bonillo on the floor for the first time. He draws the foul. Dennis Bonillo the freshman from Romania who has not played. The beginning part of the season, he started, got a lot of time in the first half of the year, not nearly as much in conference play, but getting some action here.
And you take advantage of the minutes you get. I mean, that's the ebbs and flows of what a season is. There's guys that have started the year that play a lot, then all of a sudden, maybe they're not executing on the defensive end or whatever it might be, and now all of a sudden you get thrown into a game and go produce. That's all you're asking for as a player is an opportunity. Now, if you play Stanford, don't reach in. Be disciplined. Those are the fouls that you get yelled at the most in film the next day because everybody in the locker room knows, why'd you foul? Don't reach.
Now, if they miss 2 free throws, though, do you still have the same conversation?
No, yeah, absolutely. It's probably worse, to be honest.
Scarlet Knights have only been to the line 7 times. 3 for 7. Mast was lost. Missed on the rebound. Now 6:10 to go. Time starting to slip away. The Scarlet Knights with Tariq Francis back on the floor.
Only 10 points on the afternoon here, too.
All of those in the first half, but they found the freshman in the paint. Some good activity early here for Bottle.
Well, and you look at Francis all in the first half, and again, started the game. When he started, he averages 11.5. When he comes off the paint, or off the bench, it's 20.3. We've all heard that. There's a great drive by Lawrence, but if you're Francis, how do you keep and stay engaged?
Inside the arc, a long rebound to Rick Mast.
Because for Francis, the numbers say it, right, Jason? Like off the bench, he scores more. But a lot of that, as a player, you just got to understand where the minutes and when they come are going to change. But I still have to be aggressive in attack mode all the time.
Different parts of the season too. He started first 10 games of the year, come off the bench the last 13. Tariq Francis did get the start today. Frager, no. Mast tipped it home. 23 points and 8 rebounds.
That's a pretty good afternoon. But I love the way that he's been aggressive. He's been, and also you have to give Coach Hoiberg a lot of credit for early on in this game setting the tone and saying we're going to play through the post a little bit more than we have.
Francis showed the aggression. And a timeout taken, Steve Peichel with 4:36 to go with it because he knows his team has to get a defensive stop. If they have any hope the rest of this ball game, they've got to get a couple of defensive stops to have a chance.
It has to, and that's been the area. Now, we've talked a lot about the young players. Well, what normally with young players, especially now, all of them know how to score the basketball. How many of them know how to guard at an elite level? It's one of those things in the college game that you really got to teach up. And we've seen that time this year. That being said, they have shown at times the ability to guard at elite levels. As the Michigan State game, the comeback against USC, like that's all been in play. So can they, find ways to stack 3 or 4 here and get some buckets and see if you can make this a single-digit game? And with under 3 minutes, give yourself a shot.
Now Fred Hoiberg watching his son Sam Hoiberg and his team up by 15. Chris Draper watching his son Keenan as a Saturday night hockey doubleheader coming your way. First, it is 1 versus 2 again. Michigan and Michigan State after the overtime win last night for the Wolverines. And Ohio State takes on Minnesota. Coverage gets going 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. That top 2 showdown between the Wolverines and the Spartans. Yesterday, the first time in 350 matchups between those two. And they get to do it again today. And Wolverines had that comeback last night to force overtime and win it in the extra period and go at it again today.
You a big hockey guy?
Oh, we grew up in Detroit. I grew up watching Chris Draper and his 4 Stanley Cups.
I mean, all I know is blue line and red line. Yeah. But I mean, at least I can maybe join a conversation every once in a while.
You could get on skates.
No.
Is it
7-footers on skates is not a good thing. I did it for one of my kids' school events. It was not good. Not good at all.
I think Zdeno Chara would disagree. I might have checked it at 6'9",
well,
not 7 feet. I don't know.
Maybe you got to be an athlete. Since I'm not an athlete, maybe that's the difference. There's another great pass by Nebraska.
And Hoiberg's ability to just stop on a dime. Sanford, I mean, the footwork, and that was something that Rutgers worked on in practice all day yesterday. You can hear it, you know it's coming, and then stopping, it's a different story.
Absolutely, and because it's the pace, I think. And the other part of this Nebraska team where they've been good, there you see friends trying to get involved here. But the last thing for this Nebraska team is, over the last 2 games that they lost, the physicality through, or the cutting through physicality, I don't know if it was always there. Here, they're cutting with a purpose. If they feel like there's contact, they're still going through it with great pace.
And it has not mattered who Rutgers threw at Rink Mass, whether it was a Bole or Buchanan or Grant. That one he kind of just threw up there, did not hit the rim. And so it is going back to Rutgers, but 3:40 to go. Huskers closing in on a 6th conference road win, a school record if they hold on for the final 3:40. Story that's going to happen until they win is they've never won a tournament game, but they're going to be in position, at least by seed, to win that first NCAA tournament game.
Should I go down a limb here and say I think they're going to win their first NCAA tournament game? I mean, is that all right to say that?
I mean,
I'll go on a limb.
You're not putting any more pressure on them than they will already have.
Absolutely. No, this basketball team is really good, and they're fun to watch. We've talked a lot about how they share the ball and play together, but defensively, we haven't talked nearly enough about what they do on that end as well to make it very difficult on teams with the schemes that they run and how they run them and the togetherness that they show on the defensive end as well.
And they have led this ball game for all of it except for 1 minute and 3 seconds. And the other part to it, too, it was a 14-point game at the half. And Rutgers has not gotten closer than 13 here this afternoon in the second half. Francis is fouled on the pass. So, opportunity here. It's just 6 on Nebraska, so no free throws yet to try and get it back to 13. Now the schedule starts to change too for Rutgers. So they've had such a difficult stretch in the heart of January and February, but they'll start to see some of the teams that are at least near where they are in the standings here the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, they've got Maryland, Penn State, Minnesota, Washington, Maryland, Michigan State, Penn State to finish. So again, the growth, the development of their young players, and working, continuing to how to get better on that defensive end.
Otto called for the foul from behind. Rink Mass missing last year certainly was a major factor for the Huskers, and they were trying to figure it all out. They did at the end of the year, right? They win the crown, right? Certainly what they were able to accomplish and then get him back this year. But Rayfeld just talked about it. He had not scored 20 since the Creighton game early in December. And he is well above that here this afternoon. 24 points and 8 rebounds. And, it doesn't always work out where you know the story coming in. What will he look like? He missed the game. He wasn't healthy against Illinois. How does he get back to himself? And that has played out this afternoon.
Well, it's played out, but it's also been a focal point of Coach Hoiberg early in the game. And I think that's so important to understand, hey, we've got to get Rink going a little bit. Here's a way to do it. We know he wants to get to the block, do different things. And, sure enough, that's what he was able to do.
Bonillo has been very active here. He got his first minutes in the final 5 minutes of this ball game. He's really not been playing a lot. He came out in the end of the UCLA game. It was very much out of hand. But since he has been on the floor, he's been around the ball.
Brought
he's been
great energy.
Great energy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no question.
There's no question about it.
One left, guys. Right here.
Freshman from Romania, who scored 16 points a game last year playing professional basketball overseas and was a 45% three-point shooter. And all offseason, they said he was their best player in practice. It just never translated in season yet.
And again, everything takes time, especially when you talk about just the transition from overseas to America, what needs to happen, how the game's a little bit faster. It's more physical overseas than necessarily here in America, but the game's faster here in America than it is overseas. So that makes your decision-making become faster.
And the shot clock, Sanford released. Final 100 seconds here this afternoon. Huskers have led by double figures the entire second half. Another turnover. That's been a problem today. 15 for Rutgers.
It really has. I mean, that's been the, when you've looked at this team defensively in that first half, they were pretty good, but there was a stretch there where they had I believe it was 4 or 5 turnovers in a row. And then you could see Nebraska start to get into their flow a little bit more offensively. And, you know, when you're this Rutgers team, you can't have that many turnovers and expect to, you know, be in a game.
Asked one more time, and he's fouled. Rick Francis not giving up the easy dunk here in the final moments.
And an area that, you know, Rutgers struggled with a little bit in this game too is that middle pick and roll and then big rolling down. And it's one of those things for Rutgers you got to clean up moving forward, because it's obviously going to be on film. And just to understand that Rick Mass has been able to be comfortable a little bit there too.
Take out Rick Mass, so his afternoon is going to come to an end as Justin Bolus checks in. Rick Mass to the bench, 26 points and 8 rebounds. Just a massive performance here on the road to carry Nebraska. Hoiberg commits the foul, so Tariq Francis will be at the line. But Nebraska's going to have Purdue coming to Pinnacle Bank Arena on Tuesday night. Man, oh man, will that place be electric coming up on Tuesday. But then their schedule, right? The same thing, Northwestern, Penn State, Maryland, all coming to Lincoln. So a lot of opportunities to build on what's about to be a 21-2 season for Nebraska.
Well, and now the biggest thing is take care of your business. You've done a lot of the work now. You've already got it, you know, banked. Now make sure you take care of what you're supposed to take care of. And that might be tougher because this group hasn't necessarily been in that situation before.
Final minute, Bolus on the inside, and the entire bench was ready to explode. He had not scored since the opener of the season, and they were ready for that. Francis has 16 now, 6 of 15 from the floor.
And to close my last thought on that, I think this group is mature enough to handle that.
Alaro the steal, he floats it in. It's a 10-point game, so a little bit of fight here down the stretch. It's the closest that Rutgers has been the entire second half. And Jacobson's fouled.
And Coach Hoiberg was trying to get a timeout there as well.
27 seconds to go in a 10-point lead. A 1-and-1 coming up here for Cale Jacobson. I think he's also wondering, why are you guys playing so fast, right? We're just up by 15.
Exactly. No, but that's what it is. It's when a team is behind, and like Rutgers, what do they want to do? They want to speed you up. If you've got the lead, grab the ball, slow it down, and make them guard. Call those teachable moments.
It's both free throws right at the season average, 80 points for the Huskers. Francis into the front court, quick release, and Grant is fouled. So he will be at the free throw line for a 1-and-1. One and one here for Dylan Grant in the final 22 seconds. And Rutgers will not foul. And the Huskers have come east. They had the opportunity to snap a 2-game skid and get back on the winning side. And in the process, Nebraska has just won its 6th conference road game of the season. For the first time in school history. history, the Huskers win 6 conference games away from home in the same year. Program record for Frank Hoiberg and company.
And how do you respond after 2 losses? You come out with a pretty dominant performance here. That's what good teams do. This Nebraska team is a really good team. Going on the road, winning 6 conference road wins. That's extremely impressive.
Frank Mass led the way for Fred Hoiberg with 26 points and 8 rebounds. 13 in the first half, 13 in the second half. Back on the winning side as the Huskers improved to 21-2, 10-2 in conference. Rutgers falls for a 7th straight game. They fall to a 2-11 in conference play. For my partner Brian Butch, Jason